Channel quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Open the show. But look, this is a first, folks. Nobody, believe me, nobody in the world is doing a live radio show. This right now, this is going to automobiles and homes and FM and AM radios all over South Florida, from Miami to Palm Beach, 6 million people. But nobody's on the road, so they're all at home listening. So we're doing a radio show. That's it. If anybody has a radio show, commercial radio show, where you can tune in on your car radio, that's pretty good stuff. But not only that,
there's more.
We're live streaming the radio show from our studio, not from the radio studio. I hear something in the background. From our studio.
That's you.
But wait, there's more. We also added a Bible study to the front half hour of our 1 hour radio show. The same person. I'm doing it, right? I'm here.
You're here.
And we put this on a Zoom platform where you can interact with us. Man, we're pretty good, huh?
It's incredible.
Yeah, we got this fancy control room, too.
And you got a fancy control room. Look at that. So on our Bible study, which we just did the first one, it's going to be a study in this crisis, obviously, and in our culture, how this thing is tearing Western civilization apart. I mean, capitalism is under threat. The end of this, you're going to hear an onslaught from the United Nations, from the World Health Organization, from every globalist in the world and every globalist in this country. You're going to hear unending arguments for total centralized government, socialism. Really, they're going to be arguing for almost pure sort of a benevolent Marxism, so that this never happens again. We need centralized control from a small group of people, and we want to be those people running everything, so that if Idaho needs a ventilator, we push a button and it appears in the utopia of socialism, and it finds its way to Idaho, because capitalism has failed. It's failed us. You're going to hear all of that nonsense, which is why our Bible study in the first half hour is to allow us to be grounded in the scriptures on this, to understand the principles we have to hold to maintain Western civilization influenced by the Judeo-Christian scriptures. That's what this is all about. It's two sides of the same coin, basically. Hi, guys. How you doing in there?
We're doing great.
We're doing great.
The technology that we're working with is just extraordinary. Your people can see you on YouTube. They can see you on Zoom platforms. They can hear you on the radio. There's iHeart. And for those of you that are on the webinar connection, there's a Q&A button that you can ask Tom Trento questions during the show.
And if you have a partridge in a pear tree, you can do that too. I mean, there's so many things going on here all at once. Nice studio you guys have. So, Mark, you okay in there? I know you've been working day and night, rewiring this whole place.
He's still
no words.
Don't
no
talk
words.
to me.
He cannot talk when he's pushing 16 buttons at a time.
16 buttons going on, and I'm flying and left and right and up and down. So yeah.
Look at that control room. If that happened.
There you go.
If you're impressed, folks, and you should be, help us out with a little donation. We got to keep this circus moving. Go to theunitedwest.org and hit donate. But listen to this. Anybody ever fly in an airplane? That's called a rhetorical question.
Yes, I fly airplanes.
It assumes the answer. The answer is yes. Everyone's flown. Basically, almost everyone's flown an airplane. All right. You're going to take off from pick a city, Midwest. Let's go to a Midwest city, Detroit. What's the name of your airport?
That's a good question. I forgot. How easy you forget.
There is a name to it.
It's probably got a name of some politician
who
once gave a lot of money to somebody else.
Right. All right, we're going to fly out of Detroit, which is getting hit very badly right now with COVID-19. We're going to fly out of Detroit, and we're going to head to, let's go overseas to, where's your family from in Italy, Dick?
That would be the little village of San Fratello. You would fly into Palermo.
Palermo, in Sicily, Sicilia. Okay, all right, so you take off, and you got to head to the east, and then do a little bit of a right-hand turn there to get down to Sicily, and you get up, and it's bumpy a little bit on taking off and getting up to altitude, a little bumpy, hit a little bit of weather, nothing bad, but they announce, flight attendant comes across and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're privileged to have with us today on our flight to Sofitella." Is that what the name of it is?
San Fratello.
San Fratello. Saint Fratello.
Right, brothers.
Brothers, Fratello.
Like Philadelphia.
Saint Brothers, yeah.
Something
yeah.
about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're so happy to have with us on our flight to San Fratello Vice President Joe Biden. Hey, and people clap for Joe. He happens to be on the same flight you're on.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine that? And so we take off, and I'm not on this flight. You're on this flight, Dick, and you're flying across the ocean. It's about an 8-hour ride or so, and about 4 hours, about halfway in, the pilot comes over and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hit some very bad turbulence. Please put up your tray seats and your back seats and your seatbelts on and buckle down. It's going to be a little rough going for the next hour or two, so everybody please cooperate." And everybody, their eyes get a little bit like, how's this going to be? And but the pilot had a very calming voice, and all of a sudden the plane starts jumping around like it's a ride at Disney World. It's going up and down and sideways, and stuff, the overhead bins are opening and stuff's falling out, and 5 minutes and 7 minutes and 9, and I've been in these things. If you've been in it, you know what I'm talking about. And you go, okay, all right, I made peace with God a long time ago, so let me get that out of the way. Does anybody need help? What can I do here? And boom, and and the pilot comes on and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem. We're going to be in this. It looks like we can't find clear air. We're going to be in this for another hour at least." And everybody's going, "No." And now people are starting to pray, and it's getting bad. And is the airframe going to hold together? Will this airplane, will it make it? What do we do? And the pilot comes out and says, "Look, folks, I'll get you through this. It's going to be tough, but I've done this, and I can do it. Let's just hang in there. Everyone, hold on to your neighbor, and we'll get through this together." And then somebody jumps up and says, "Let Joe Biden fly the plane." Let Joe Biden fly the plane. He's on the plane. Give the controls to Joe Biden.
No. I'll give you a parachute, man.
How completely crazy is it for anybody today to think Joe Biden can handle this situation we're in right now? How completely out of the realm of possibility. Which is why we named today's show, ladies and gentlemen, The Pandemic versus the DEM-PANIC. You get it?
Got it.
The pandemic, which we're in, versus the DEM-PANIC. The Democrats are panicking like you can't believe, because the pilot taking us through this is exhibiting not only a calmness and confidence, but he is deferring to the experts where he needs to, and avoiding the iron grasp, the strong hand of the government when he doesn't have to use it, and he's building a public-private partnership with many of these organizations, many of these businesses that have necessary equipment right now, to the degree he even had, I think, FedEx and UPS executives at the Rose Garden yesterday in his briefing. And Joe Biden, who can't produce a live stream from his basement, Joe Biden, who now is being accused by this woman of sexual assault. And, these things, when they're 20, 30 years old, you go, come on. It's serious. It happened, all of that. But why you bringing it out now? What's the plan here? What are you doing? But the Democrats have always been the ones, you got to believe every woman. You got to believe every woman. Well, this lady, and I researched her, Tara Reid, she's got documentation of her working for him, and she's got evidence through others that she told, but the press, the hardcore leftist press, is avoiding implicating Joe Biden in anything right now because the guy is hanging on by his fingernails. Have you seen that? I mean,
when you listen to her interview, you have to make your own decision. Is she an actress or is she real? And I think if you listen to her interview, you'll come to a conclusion. Most people, I think, that she sounds like she is absolutely emotionally committed to this story, reluctant to tell it, and feeling in her own mind that it's the right thing to do at this time.
And this Tara Reid that we're speaking about, she has done, I think, one interview so far, and looking at her, she's believable. I mean, you can tell the nuances when she starts to stumble and the emotion and all of that. She had a little bit of acting in her background in Hollywood. She went to Hollywood early on, so we gotta be careful
there. Did
not know that. She's a writer, self-employed writer, all of that. So you got to watch that. But she has tried to bring this out several times years ago, and she tried to go to Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. She was a supporter of Bernie Sanders, and she told them, "Look, do something with this." Nobody wanted to touch it, and so the big question is the press going to investigate this at all? And the answer is no. They're not gonna investigate it. They want to get rid of Orange Man, and Orange Man right now, their name for our president, he is behind the controls of this very large aircraft, and he has been through a series of crises in his life with all his construction and all of that. No one ever on the face of the earth has been through a pandemic like this in the 21st century, in a civilized, high-tech, highly medical first world situation. And every leader of every world is trying to deal with it. So you go, okay, well, who better than the guy who built the economy, the guy who knows how to bring people together to accomplish a mission, but all we hear on the other side are efforts to knock him down. Well, I have a theory about that. I'll lay the theory out, and then we'll backfill the theory a little bit. I see a three-pronged pincer, Pincher, pincer attack against the president, because we have 218 days, gentlemen, and everyone listening and watching. We have 218 days until November 3rd. You almost forgot. You almost forgot about the election.
There's an election?
There is an election.
Oh, my.
And it's 218 days away. And right now, in the state of Florida, the Democrat Party, along with Andrew Gillum and his team, well, I don't think Andrew is involved on day-to-day operations right now, but his executive director, Rosie Gonzalez Spears, they have launched a joint campaign, ground campaign, to text 1 million Democrats and hook those 1 million Democrats up with absentee ballots, because they know the vote total is going to be decreased on 218 days from today. So they have launched a new way of mobilizing voters through absentee ballots. Not the best thing in the world, the absentees. There's a lot of problems with them, but the Democrats are moving in this state. Here's the three-pronged pincer attack, and I'm going to alliterate this with the letter P. P. Here's the three-pronged attack against President Trump, coming from the Democrat side that has become so obvious that everyone needs to see it, and then it needs to be countered. It's Pelosi, the press, and the philanthropists. Now, you may challenge me if you want, but the word philanthropists starts with a...
Spelled with a P.
Doesn't it, Dick? Doesn't
Yeah,
it
I'm
really?
looking right at it.
Can you
Yes.
verify that?
It is
Okay.
verified.
If I could do philanthropists, but...
Or you could do Pelosi.
Pelosi
Press.
and press. We can do that.
Philanthropy.
Right.
Either way.
We can do that. So we have a three-pronged attack. Pelosi, the press, and the philanthropists. Here's how it works. The president is not taking the advice of CNN, NBC, MSNBC, ABC, and CBS to stop doing the daily briefings, at least for him to stop doing it. Or if he's not going to stop, go out there, introduce it, then go somewhere else, let Mike Pence or somebody else speak. That's what the broadcast networks, cable networks are almost demanding from the president. Let me stop there and ask the audience, why would the cable networks demand in their inimitable way that the president doesn't do these daily briefings? I try to catch every one of them, and not only am I completely entertained by the president's cavalier manner with the press and his focus on the mission, the objective, and the sense that in the midst of a horrible crisis, he could still have a sense of humor, which is so necessary for a country. We can't go into, a catatonic state. We have to stay alive and optimistic. And when he was pushing, the aspiration of Easter Sunday, you had to be really not too smart to think we're really going to make it there. It was very evident that the guy's trying to keep inspiration before us, and he picked a day, and he never said, I have the power to make it happen, and I'm making it happen. He threw it out there. And don't forget, he wrote The Art of the Deal. He knows how to fly trial balloons to test the temperature of the environment to then make decisions. Why do you think he says, I'm thinking about a quarantine for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut? And the governors went nuts on that. No, you can't do that. So now he's got the governors arguing against that, but them equipping themselves even more to quarantine their own people. So it may look like, why is he saying something like that? But there's a greater plan to move this whole thing forward and to keep the Democrats from ruining the country, which unrestrained, they would at this point. They absolutely would. So he's on that stage nightly, and they know, the press, Pelosi, and the philanthropists, they know that this guy's killing us. The guy's ratings are going up within the Democrat Party because he is, apart from some of the idiot leaders like the guy in Washington, what's the governor's name? Inslee?
Inslee.
Jay Inslee. Did you see the president yesterday, what he said about him?
I did not.
I start cracking up. He said, they asked, what about, Washington State? Are you holding stuff back? He goes, I'm not holding anything back. Said, but I'm not calling that guy. And Mike, you're going to call him, right? Yeah. Mike Pence said, yeah. That was 2 days ago. Then yesterday they questioned him. This is part of the three-pincer attack against the president that I'm going to lay out. I'm giving you the context, folks, for how it happened at 11:22 in the morning. We're on the radio, aren't we? WNN, Tom Trento here.
Radio, YouTube, Zoom.
We are Zooming at 95.3 on your FM dial, and we're also Zooming on 1470 AM if you're on the radio side. You can go to United West / there's too many ways to find us.
It's on your screen. You can just look it on.
Oh, yeah,
your
look
screen.
on the screen right now. There's all the different ways, blacklisted and everything. So yesterday there was a follow-up question. He was in the Rose Garden. He took him out of that little tight room, that little press room, which is like an incubator for COVID-19. He put him outside with his wind blowing. And one of the collaborators in this three-pronged pincer attack, one of the collaborators said, you said that you weren't going to help the state. I didn't say I wasn't going to help the state of Washington. I said I'm not calling that governor. He's an idiot. He goes like that. I don't like the guy. He's a failed presidential candidate. I'm not talking to him. That's simple. I didn't say FEMA shouldn't talk to him. I didn't say Mike didn't talk to him. Others can. I don't like him. I'm not talking to him. And it took me back a little bit. Here's the president of the country in a crisis saying he doesn't like this guy. He's not going to talk to him. And I said, you know what? He's telling us, you talk about transparency. I mean, Obama was such a fraud and phony at every way. This president, what you see is what you get. He doesn't like the guy. He's not going to talk to him. Doesn't mean the federal government's not going to assist the guy. But why does the president have to talk to him?
Well, it's interesting to see the president having normal emotions and calling somebody out. He's judgmental. If somebody behaves like a fool, he'll say that. A great line also in that same interaction is he referred to a woman who runs the state of Michigan whose last name is Whitmer. He said Gretchen Half-Whitmer.
I cracked up when I read that.
Is that good?
I said, who's writing this
Mel
stuff?
Brooks. It's Mel Brooks is behind all of this. Mel Brooks was at the Last Supper, if you watch the movie, and Mel Brooks is writing for the president. I'm convinced.
I'm convinced, too. Gretchen Half-Whitmer. In any event, so the president went off on Jay Inslee, and I said, not my style. I like to use a scalpel when I'm engaging with people in a debate or whatever. Once in a while you get the sledgehammer, but typically I like a scalpel, like to, cut their heart out, show it to them beating, then say, I'll put it back in, and, what the heck is going on? That's more my style. The more... But you got to appreciate, the locomotive coming down the track and the little ant there and the Trump out the window going, crush, you're gone, forget about you. But here's where this three-part pincer move comes in. Now, the questioner, the journalist, this is just the left media, CNN and that whole crew. They have become the public relations or the marketing arm of the Democrat Party. And here's how it works. Now, one of the women had a follow-up question about this, and then that's when he went off and said, I don't like this guy and all of that. So she now takes the soundbite of him saying, I don't like that guy, I'm not going to talk to him. They don't include Michael do it, FEMA do it, all of that. They just have a little soundbite. And then they print that in whatever publication they are, whether it's CNN or New York Times or Washington Post. This is exactly what happened with Russia, where the FBI was in cahoots with the New York Times. And when parts of the file, the great dossier, was leaked to the New York Times, the FBI, you can go read about this. I mean, this is what got exposed. The FBI would then say, oh, my word, the paper of record published a story about Russian influence in Trump's campaign. We need to launch a counterintelligence operation against Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, on and on and on. You see the interreaction of the media and the legal authority to move with legal authorities to investigate. That's what happened with Trump. That may still be happening with Pelosi, but right now it's a media play. So yesterday, the journalist, the reporter, takes that soundbite, publishes it, making Trump look like an egotistical maniac, and then Nancy Pelosi reads this and says, oh, my God, he won't even talk to the governor of Washington, and he's doing all this great stuff for his state in Florida. We need to investigate him, and she's starting to talk about an investigation.
Please. Impeachment.
Yeah.
Impeachment.
She's starting to talk about that. All of this is in cahoots. This is all planned. It's not a conspiracy. It's the default nature of the media wing of the Democrat Party, which is the media. Now, where does the philanthropists come involved? Well, the philanthropists then take this data, this material that has been ginned up by CNN, by the New York Times, in conjunction with the Democrat Party, and they go and produce a massive TV campaign. Do we have any of those ads that we can run? We don't have those today, right?
No, I got the Joe Biden stuff. But
Okay, we'll run some of the ads that are running right now in the state of Florida. And essentially what happened is a couple of organizations, I'll read them for you. Let's see. You guys familiar with all this craziness?
Yeah, we've seen this. They basically, what you're saying is they
Alrighty,
use a manufactured, out of context tag line, and they build an entire donation campaign. 3 or 4 paragraphs quoting the press, quoting CNN, and then a request for money. This is part of the panic. We've got to raise money to destroy Trump because of this manufactured story. It happens over and over and over again. What's interesting is there's plenty of money to promote the request for more money. So the philanthropers are generating money, and they're putting money into the ad campaign to generate more money. Basically, they're panicking the electorate at every turn because that's all they've got. It's like having a panic attack. They really, for example, they would never, Joe Biden is just irrelevant. So all they can do is just tee off on a manufactured story with the president.
Well, that's exactly the point here at 11:30. Bottom of the hour, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Trento, your host. The Trento Show, where we make America think again. And we do that by providing information for you that will be persuasive, based upon evidence, based upon facts. That's what we're all about here. WWNN 1470 on your AM side, 95.3. The Zooms and Drooms and YouTubes and all of that.
It's flying out there.
Yeah, a million ways to see us.
By this time, we must have gotten down to the basement of Joe Biden's basement home. He must be.
We're gonna get there. But all of this tripart pincer movement, we're trying to triangulate on Trump, hit him 3 different ways: hit him in the media, then the cabal shares the information, hit him from the legislature, the Democrat side, and then hit him from the advertising, the hit pieces that are done, all to prop up a dying Joe Biden. Right now, Joe Biden, I don't understand this, but Joe Biden is leading within the margin of error Donald Trump in some Fox polls, 49-47, but within the margin of error. Joe Biden is leading the president, and if the vote was today, these polls say Joe Biden would be the president of the United States.
That would be the panic vote. We've got the panic vote.
Unbelievable. But there's a follow-up to that, which is sending the Dems into panic mode. Pandemic, the Dems in a panic mode. The follow-up part of these surveys, these polls, are that the excitement rate, the enthusiasm rate for Joe Biden is 24%. So 24% of the people that said they're going to vote for him are really enthused about voting for him. It's a throwaway vote, which means what on election day?
They might not show up. They might not send in the absentee ballot. I think we're going to focus on both the absentee and the election day. This would tell you that they're very nervous. That basically says that people might not follow through on, even if they say they will vote for him, they might not.
When you're at 24%, you're dead. If 24% of the people that say they're going to vote for you are enthused about it, you got a lot of work to do to get that number up to Trump's, which is 70, 80, 90% of the people that say they're going to vote for him. On the Republican side, it's in the 90s. You know, the 90%, 95% of Republicans are enthused about voting for Donald Trump. On the independent side, it's about 60% or so. And so Donald Trump has high enthusiasm for people that are voting, but as of right now, more people are saying they'll vote for Joe Biden, which I find inconceivable in any event. But that's what the polls are saying. But the experts know that Joe Biden ain't going to make it. So the money now. So how do you take out a guy that has the podium for, I don't know, he said the other day when he got in an argument with CNN during one of the press briefings on COVID-19, the president said, look, if it wasn't for me, your hatred for me, you wouldn't have any ratings. Why do you think you and the New York Times and the Washington Post are even here? Because you know you're getting ratings because people want to see this. If you didn't think you were getting ratings here, you wouldn't even be here. That's the way it works, right?
But it is the hate vote. It is absolutely the panic vote and the hate vote that is keeping this going.
So how do you destroy a president that has a podium, has a soapbox that's gigantic every night on TV, where there's an audience seeking to understand and know what's taking place, even though some of the information is extremely disturbing? What do you do tactically?
You run ads like this.
Exactly.
The coronavirus.
This is their new hoax.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
When you have 15 people, and within a couple of days it's going to be down to close to zero, we really
Open
think
Secrets is a left-of-center organization that tracks dark money. And they do a pretty good job on both sides. Now, without question, there's dark money on the Republican side. Both sides play these games. But right now, the left is playing this game like it's never been played before. And I'm going to lay out the third part of this evil trinity. We have the so-called journalists who set Trump up with gotcha questions at these briefings. They get that information, they bring it back to their editors. Their editors tweak the material to have a hit piece come out in an established, respected newspaper, website, whatever. The legislator, Nancy Pelosi, and I'm sure they're talking to each other. We're going to go to press in 5 minutes, Nancy. Nancy goes, oh, my God, look what Donald Trump says today. She puts out a tweet or a press release, and then she calls Soros and says, run an ad, buddy. Let's go after this guy. Joe, we don't know if Joe's breathing anymore. Has anyone seen Joe Biden's face, his skin? It's like he's getting weekly plastic surgery or something. His skin is getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and he's getting more and more hair on his head. But he's looking very pale, I guess, in a basement. If you do your live stream from a basement, I guess that happens.
There's not enough oxygen down
there. He's oxygen deprived. But listen to what Open Secrets says. The Democrat dark money, they call it dark money groups and super PACs target Trump with multi-million-dollar coronavirus ad campaign. Now listen, folks. They're targeting 4 key swing states, battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Florida. For those of you in Florida, we started this whole radio program, this whole communications campaign to mobilize 1,000,001 new evangelical voters to compensate and overcome Andrew Gillum's campaign of 1,000,000 new Democrat voters. Boom! Where'd that go, Midwest?
Yeah, how about that? We've been working on that, and Gillum's still functioning through his organization. So we were seeing this as a challenge. It's still the case that Trump could lose Florida, and it's still the case that if evangelicals don't figure this out, they could be the reason that he loses Florida and loses the presidency.
Right. Our whole campaign was to use our communication capability at this level to mobilize a coalition of about 20 organizations we've been working with almost a year and a half. And those organizations would mobilize people on the ground to join armyfortrump.org. And you need to do that. All of you out there that want to get involved, and you're frustrated, you're in your house, your kids are driving you crazy, you can't lock them in the closet, you don't know what's the name of that math?
Common Core.
Common Core. You don't know Common Core math. Nobody knows it. Thank you, Ron DeSantis. Praise Allah. You know what Ron did?
What?
He got rid of Common Core. Phasing out of Florida public education.
That was an early thing that he did, and I think that's an indication. We're going to start comparing governors in the crisis here. Let's watch and compare this governor, DeSantis, with some of the other governors.
So you're in this situation now, and you want to do something. You want to get involved. You want to stay active. You don't look around your neighborhood and wave to your new neighbors that you're just meeting. You want to do something. Armyfortrump.org, your computer, your phone, your capability, your brain can be utilized. Go there today, armyfortrump.org. unitedwest.com and unitedwest.org. Go there. But what we had to do was reconfigure our strategic approach to mobilizing 1,000,001 new voters, because there's not going to be a ground game. The whole idea was tens of thousands of volunteers going with iPads to those homes that we know are Christian homes, and there's so much data out there, you know this, and going there and saying, you haven't voted out of the last 5 elections, you've only voted in 2. We'd like you to come back. What are your questions? That door-to-door face, that's how you win elections. That needs to start tomorrow. In fact, it's been going. Willie G., Christian on a Mission, our dear friend, he's been running voter registration campaigns all over Palm Beach County up until all of this happened. It ain't happening. Nobody's going to go into somebody's home next month, and you need to start right now for the numbers to make sense. And nobody's letting anybody in their home with an iPad for another month or 2 or 3 maybe. So we had to strategically reconfigure our thinking to say, how do we mobilize these Christians? And you're going to hear about what we're going to do in the days ahead. We've solved the problem almost.
But Tom, I think your point is that the ground game is in trouble. So we're establishing an air game. We're going out through the airwaves. I also want to make the comment that you're making the point that it's still pivotal that the evangelicals in the state of Florida need to be activated. Those people that are listening from around the country, you need to pray for and reach out to any evangelicals that you know in Florida, because they could determine who your next president is. The other point of this is Tom Trento, for those of you that are on the radio program, has started a Bible study at 10:30. You can join us. If you go to the theunitedwest.org homepage, you can actually join 30 minutes earlier and watch a Bible study. What is the Bible study? It's an outreach to evangelicals. So this is all tying together. There's a hint here. Part of the new air game, you're part of it, is to use this time when we're by ourselves, when we're thinking about life and death and why are we here, and that's what Tom does on the Bible study. So all of this fits together. This is all part of the air game to get evangelicals all over the country, particularly in Florida, to do the right thing and support the only president who will enable them to continue to be above the ground evangelicals. Otherwise, we're all going to be hiding in our homes, not because of the virus, but because of somebody else running the country next year if it's not Donald Trump. We will be hiding. We will be quarantining ourselves potentially if Donald Trump is not leading the country.
And that will not be a pretty picture, that's for sure. And one other note on the Bible study. Our effort to mobilize evangelicals, obviously very, very important. But I would maintain that can you be an atheist? I'm having an internal debate in my own head here. Can you be an atheist and get anything out of the Bible study that I'll be teaching? Yeah, you can, because if you are selecting the next president, and if you think this pandemic is a big crisis, and it is, can you imagine them taking over? Because it's going to be the repercussions and ramifications of this, particularly on the economic side, are going to be with us for a year, 2 years. Can you imagine Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders trying to rebuild the economy with their socialist viewpoint, and all the socialists in the Democrat House pushing them to nationalize healthcare, nationalize the production of masks, nationalize hospitals, nationalize everything? The country will be, there's one guy that can move this thing properly. Don't lose any days. Now, I'm going to read from Open Secrets here to give you a perspective on the third part of that evil trinity. Again, by reference here, we have the cabal of the complicit journalists setting up Trump for gotcha questions at the briefings at the White House. That's what their job is. Throw something out there, get a soundbite we can twist. That then gets published in a legitimate journalistic piece, whether in print, online, TV, whatever. And then the legislature, the leaders in the House and even in the Senate on the Democrat side, then go, oh my God, this guy's out of control. I see people calling for the implementation of the 25th Amendment now, based upon the president being insane. Legitimate people are starting to they're going whatever they can do. Now the philanthropists, the third P in the PPP comes in. And Open Secrets lays out very clearly how this works. And I want you to follow along with this. I'm getting, you're talking to me, you're not showing your mouth. The picture's now in Midwest, even though you're talking about, okay. Democrat dark money groups and super PACs target Trump with multi-million-dollar coronavirus campaign. Fueled by dark money. I mean, a center-left organization is calling this dark money. Where's that come from? We don't know where it comes from exactly. Cash flush liberal groups with ties to the Democrat Party are mobilizing to unleash millions of dollars worth of attack ads against President Donald Trump's response to the coronavirus ahead of the 2020 presidential campaign election. What an opening paragraph. Tells the whole story right there. And it shows exactly what we've been talking about, which is this coordination between the press, the Democrat elected officials, and the philanthropists. So now they're going to make attack ads. Tomorrow we will queue up some of those and show you those ads. I mean, they're really pretty bad ads. And look, they're taken so out of context. I know he threatened the president. I don't know if he files a suit to sue them for absolute lies, bold-faced lies on what he's doing. Many political groups avoided attacking Trump as the coronavirus outbreak first began. But as social distancing and quarantine became the new normal, a number of multi-million-dollar ad buys from Democrat groups mark a departure from that strategy. Let's discuss that for a minute. At the outbreak of this, which I think it was the 31st of January, the end of December, we knew China knew there was a problem. The 31st of January, a month later, the president shut down travel from China and was repudiated, lambasted, ridiculed, racist, all of that for shutting down travel from China January 31st. Well, January 31st to now March 30th, that month, things have dramatically changed, Midwest Dick and J. Mark, where the initial week or two, everyone was quiet to see how we can be unified to fight this thing. But then, why? Why? And I'm asking the audience 49 minutes after Tom Trento, WWNN 1470. I'm asking the audience, why do you think there was a strategic change in the Democrat Party to now go after Trump based upon his mishandling of all of this? Can't hear you. He
was looking too presidential. He was looking like he was in charge, and they didn't want him to be in charge. They didn't want him to, because he's answering all the questions. He was doing all the right things. And they're like, we got nothing to argue with him about, so we got to take him off air and make up stuff that he said that he didn't say, like the virus is no big deal.
It's a hoax.
It's a hoax. It's a hoax. The virus is a hoax. In fact, that's in one of those ads.
That's in one of those ads, yeah.
So they can make up what he says instead of the public seeing what he actually said.
And what he said on the hoax was, the way the media is handling this is a hoax. You're trying to make it look like I'm not concerned about this. That's the hoax. And he said it, when he's speaking extemporaneously, and any human being is, you're inartful sometimes. But it was very clear what he meant, but they had just enough room to spin it, and now they're running commercials that he said this thing was a hoax, which is not true. So not only did the president look presidential, but the presumptive Democrat president looked what, Dick?
Infantile, feeble. The president can be on the air for 2 hours. Joe could not be on the air for 10 minutes. So there's the problem right there. It's an immediate comparison between a problem solver and a person who is fading.
And therefore, the Democrat super PAC Priorities USA, they have spent more than $6 million on a series of negative ads attacking Donald Trump on his response. The group plans to spend, you ready for this? 10 million? No. 20 million? No.
30, at least 30.
No. Keep going.
100 million.
Keep going. $1.50.
$1.5 billion?
But $150 million. $150 million in swing states before the August Democrat National Convention.
The coronavirus.
This is their new hoax.
You're going to see
We have it totally under
our
control.
television
One person coming in from
waves,
China.
our television
One day it's like a
stations
miracle, it will
inundated
disappear.
with
When you have
that
15
make
people,
Donald
and
Trump
within a
look like
couple of
he
days
is
it's going to be down to
coronavirus.
close
That's
to
what's
zero.
going on.
We really think we've done a great job in keeping it down to a minimum.
Yeah, if you're watching the show, you can see they're showing that his inaction, and we laid out a timeline. I think we're going to have to update this timeline on a regular basis. While he was moving, the president, on actions to stop China from coming into the U.S., stop Europe from coming in, the Democrats were moving ahead with the impeachment of the president and having the impeachment trials all the while he was trying to fight it. Then, insult upon insult, the mayors of a couple of different cities, like this idiot in New Orleans, she goes on in early February and said, there's nothing to worry about this. There's nothing. We're going to come to New Orleans, have Mardi Gras, party with us. Everything's fine. Same thing from the commissioner of health in New York City for various events and parades.
Come see the Chinese New Year parade in New York.
That's what
wow,
it was.
That's a classic. She said it.
She's the head of the health commission
Right.
for the city of New York told people, come to the Chinese New Year parade. And now all hell broke loose in both places, and they're blaming the president. You didn't give us enough ventilators.
Well, I think one of the things before we close to talk a little bit about the philanthropists. These are not just aged men who are sitting in a mansion and have a lot of money. These are organized, including people outside of the country. Much of the money that comes through these PACs, legally or illegally, are coming from other places. For example, the Middle East, or one of the biggest donation sources for campaigns in Florida is the Communist Party of China. Directly or indirectly, we have evidence that says organizations like Liberation Road, which are active in Florida, are largely pro-Maoist Chinese, pro-Chinese organizations. Money is coming in from China, not just the virus, but the money to publicize an anti-Trump campaign is actually coming from the same country that gave us the COVID-19 virus.
And George Soros and his organization called Political PAC, Priorities PAC. George Soros is putting in multi-millions of dollars into this through his organization. Tomorrow it's called Priorities USA. It's the Democrat Party's largest political action committee. Tomorrow I'm going to go through Priorities USA, look at who the people are, what's going on, where the money's going. But what this is going to do, this is almost treasonous. It's certainly immoral. You could have a legitimate debate and discussion on timing, on all of this, but once the whole country is engaged right now, there's a necessity for people who rally around the flag to support the leader, to do the best he can, and get beyond your Trump derangement syndrome. That's not happening. And it's not happening because just what you said, Mark, he's looking presidential, Biden's looking nothing. So there's the name of our show today, Pandemic versus Dems Panicking, DEM-PANIC. That's the situation. So these people are violating their own view of patriotism, though they probably don't have any anymore, by attacking the guy that's trying to mobilize the country to save lives. And now kids are watching these attacks at home. They're going to get such a negative image of the president when, in fact, he's moving us in the right direction. This is the cultural crisis that we're talking about, which is why we have the necessity of the Bible study the half hour before, 10:30 to 11.
Absolutely. This is all coming down to people who have a deep set of principles, who have a belief in God, a belief that individuals don't control things, and that we need to keep America from being erased. I mean, keep in mind the people who are connected to Joe Biden are connected to people who want a massive international one world government. And the Marxists in the Democratic Party are all in for that. So to destroy Donald Trump is to destroy the people behind Donald Trump. That would be people who believe the Bible. That would be evangelicals. So it is very much of a spiritual war, and that's why this new introduction of a Bible study at 10:30 is really important. If you were not on the Bible study today and you want to join it, go to theunitedwest.org. Look on the top of the page there. You'll see the ways that you can join either via YouTube or the Zoom registration. You can be part of the Bible study, which will begin again at 10:30 tomorrow.
And every day we'll be doing that throughout this whole crisis. We'll be with you, Tom Trento, your host. 57 minutes after, got about a minute or two left. The money, Dick, and everybody out there, the money that's being put into the campaign, coming into Florida to attack Donald Trump on his handling of COVID-19, according to Open Secrets here, is 29 anonymous six-figure donors giving up to $800,000 each. American Bridges non-cash gifts include 450 shares of Baoduo, a Chinese technology company with reported ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and that donation of stock was worth $100,000. So the Chinese commies are funding the campaign in Florida to defeat Donald Trump.
And the issue, coincidentally, happens to be his treatment of the virus that started in China. We can call that the Communist Party virus. We could call it what it is. So isn't that interesting? The money comes in to Florida to attack him for the way he is handling the virus that came into Florida and into the country from communist China.
And tomorrow we will show you one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life on China. Where's it when the news reporter says, "Why do you call this from the Chinese virus?" Because it's from China. We'll show you a video tomorrow. You're going to wet your pants laughing.
Whoa.
You are. I mean, I couldn't morning. I'll show you guys now. And a little edgy, but I think we're going to show it. All right, that's it for us, folks. We're leaving. We'll be back 10:30 tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. East Coast time, half-hour Bible study. Bring your Bibles. And then we go right into our show. And we're going to stick with you on these important issues. But we're hanging in there on the campaign. We got to win this.